mixture of celebrations took place across the world on New Year's Day, with many glad to see the back of a difficult year, unlike any other in memory. Hundreds in the Chinese city of Wuhan visited a popular local Buddhist temple where they burned incense and prayed for good luck and health in 2021. By late morning, a queue of people waiting to pay their respects had formed and snaked around the perimeter of the temple's walls. Similarly, in India, priests conducted rituals on the bank of the Ganges River and many visited temples. Some prayed for the well-being and happiness of their families and asked for guidance for the upcoming year. Thousands of people in Japan, where New Year is the biggest holiday in the calendar, visited Tokyo's Meiji Shrine to pray for an end to tough times. Though celebrations worldwide had largely been toned down the night before, some festivities did go ahead. Vietnam's capital, Hanoi, was packed with people, one of the very few cities around the world where large crowds were allowed to gather. Many other nations, like the UAE and Egypt, opted for extravagant firework displays instead. New York's usually heaving Times Square was quiet for the most part. Low-key celebrations took place with just a handful of invited guests. England's capital, London, bore similar, relatively sombre scenes. Though unofficial firework displays brightened the sky at midnight, the streets were largely empty.
Fireworks soared into the sky above the Sydney Opera House as they do every year, but the harbour city below was a ghost town, a fittingly creepy send-off for a year that won't be missed. The city precinct was restricted to those with restaurant and hotel bookings amid efforts to limit the spread of coronavirus as local clusters continued to spread. The Sydney Harbour Bridge was the focal point for the show, with Sydney deciding to press ahead with a shortened fireworks display. Across the Tasman in New Zealand, it was a different story, as Auckland became one of the first places in the world to usher in 2021. Revellers on the waterfront watched the 5-minute fireworks display from the Sky Tower, with brightly coloured fireworks and laser lighting shooting into the night sky over the city's harbour. In the Chinese city of Wuhan, where the pandemic originated a year ago, thousands gathered across the city centre for the countdown to 2021, as life in the city has largely returned to normal. While in the Indian beach resort of Goa, tourists and locals alike watched the sun set on 2020. In Europe, New Year's Eve will be a far quieter affair. When the clock strikes midnight in France, the country will be under a strict curfew, from 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. The government says no more than 6 adults should be gathered around the table. It's a similar situation in Spain. The central Sol Square in Madrid, where thousands of people traditionally gather for New Year's celebrations, will be closed from 10 p.m, as authorities continue to encourage people to stay at home.
The highly contagious coronavirus variant first seen in Britain was detected in California on Wednesday, as hospitals in the state remain on the brink of crisis. The new variant was confirmed to have been detected in a patient in Southern California who had no known travel history, suggesting it is spreading in the community. The discovery comes a day after the first known US case was documented in Colorado.
An hour or so
However,
ago.
during an online briefing, top infectious disease specialist Anthony Fauci said the variant was not more deadly.
There's no indication at all that it increases the virulence, and by virulence I mean the ability to make you sick or kill you. It doesn't seem to make it more strong in that regard. In addition, it doesn't seem to evade the protection that's afforded by the antibodies that are induced by vaccine.
The emergence of the variant in the US makes the rollout of vaccines that much more critical. Thousands of frontline workers have already been inoculated in California, including firefighters who've been providing an ambulance service. California residents are being urged to stick to restrictions until it's their turn to receive the shot. Much of the state is under an indefinite stay-at-home order, which was renewed on Tuesday. But Fauci said that with mass immunization in the spring, he expected that life would get back to some semblance of normality by next fall.
In the race to beat coronavirus, China is the latest country to approve a vaccine. It was developed by an affiliate of state-backed pharmaceutical giant Sinopharm, making it the country's first approved shot for general public use. China is bracing for increased transmission risks over winter. No detailed efficiency data of the vaccine has been publicly released, but its developer says it's 79.34% effective. The approval comes after the United Arab Emirates became the first country to roll out the vaccine to the public, and as Pakistan announced a 1.2 million dose purchase deal with Sinopharm. While China has been slower than several other countries in approving COVID-19 vaccines, it has been inoculating some citizens for months, using 3 different shots still undergoing late-stage trials.
BioNTech has warned of a supply gap of COVID-19 vaccines until others are approved and rolled out. The German biotech startup is working with its partner Pfizer to boost production of their vaccine. They've led the race, but their shot has been slow to arrive in the European Union due to relatively slow approval from the bloc's health regulator and the small size of the order placed by Brussels. The United States ordered 600 million doses of the vaccine in July, while the EU waited until November to place an order of half that size. The delays have caused consternation in Germany, where some regions had to temporarily close vaccination centres mere days after the launch of an inoculation drive on December 27th. BioNTech CEO told Newsweekly Spiegel, "A hole is appearing because there's a lack of other approved vaccines." A shot from Moderna is expected to be cleared by the European Medicines Agency on January 6th. Germany urged the EMA to also quickly approve a vaccine developed by Oxford University and AstraZeneca, which Britain cleared this week.
Britons woke up to a life outside the European Union's orbit on New Year's Day, marking the end of a tempestuous 48-year liaison with the bloc. Lorries disembarked seamlessly from early ferries arriving in the French port of Calais, and Eurostars arrived at their destinations. Eurotunnel's Director of Public Affairs, John Keefe, believes the rollout of new post-Brexit procedures have, so far, been a success.
It's gone really well. We expected the traffic to carry on flowing as it had yesterday and every other day, and in fact that's exactly what happened. At 11 o'clock last night, the first truck rolled through the new procedures just as quickly as the truck in front of it had rolled through when there weren't any.
Some residents of England's town of Dover, a major port for ferries to Calais, welcomed the United Kingdom's departure.
I'm really happy. Brexit's been a long time coming. We've been seeing too much of it on the news. It's been so political. When Boris has just done it, he's nailed it. We're in a much better place.
But others are far more sceptical. Brexit is the UK's most significant geopolitical shift since the loss of the empire, and it's unlikely to be an entirely smooth ride. With the United Kingdom now out of the single market and European Customs Union, there will almost certainly be some disruption at borders. And more red tape means more cost for those importing and exporting goods. The drama has also weakened the bonds that bind England, Wales, Scotland and Northern Ireland. Prime Minister Boris Johnson branded the exit as an amazing moment for this country and spoke of freedom in the UK's hands. But Johnson, the face of the Brexit campaign, has been short on detail about what he wants to build with Britain's new independence, or how to do it while borrowing record amounts.
Well, Happy New Year, Australia, for we are one and free.
Australians woke up to a new year with a new national anthem, after Prime Minister Scott Morrison announced a change to the words on Thursday. The song will no longer refer to Australia as young and free, in an attempt to reflect the country's long Indigenous history. Australia has struggled for decades to reconcile with Aborigines, who arrived on the continent some 50,000 years before British colonists. Each year, the country has a national holiday, marking the date the first fleet sailed from Britain into Sydney in 1788. Some Indigenous people refer to Australia Day as Invasion Day. Morrison said the national anthem must be more reflective of the country's diversity.
Our anthem is about us, who we are and who we hope to be as well. We're a strong and vibrant liberal democracy. We live in a timeless land of ancient First Nations peoples, and we draw together the stories of more than 300 national ancestries and language groups.
The idea to change the wording was floated in 2020 by New South Wales Premier Gladys Berejiklian, who said the current wording ignored Australia's, quote, proud First Nations culture. There is now a renewed focus on Indigenous empowerment amid the Black Lives Matter movement.